ultimate guide how to be tactical. Hey you, nice style. You think you're tactical? No, you're not. Get some gear, right now. Yeah, it's better, but you know, these baseball caps, this is not trendy anymore. Get some helmet. Empty helmet? Really? This looks like... beep. Okay, now better. Your helmet is full of gear. Where is some gun? Not too small? There is one gun, of which every commando, couch commando, dreams about. What could this be? That's HK416A5 from VFC. Wow. Let's open it. Let's see it. Oh, it's here. Oh, it's so ambidextrous. Oh, it's so special forces. Finally, you can be most tactical Navy SEAL, Delta Force, SAS, SBS player in the world. But remember, no matter how tactical you think you are, there is always a more tactical frog in the pond. Hello and welcome to Frog Engineering Frog Manual. This time we will have a look into the conversion for HK416 and AR15 type guns from VFC GBBRs, of course. Regarding these conversions, the first generation was introduced already, but it was a limited run and it went away pretty quickly. I decided not to release them officially because it made no sense, as the second generation was supposed to be done a little differently. The second generation is basically easier to manufacture, it's a little different, but generally it works exactly the same as the first generation. And it's easier for you to assemble it to the gun. So today I will show you exactly how to do it, how to put this conversion into the VFC gun. First, let's have a look on what the conversion consists of. So basically we have the conversion itself. It has few printed parts, we'll look into it in a minute. We have the speed loader, and this one is yellow. Maybe you know from the previous video about WE, they were transparent. This one is yellow just to differentiate the version. This is the 2.3 version. The original 2.1 white version had some issue with friction in the inner area. This improved one solves this problem. These models will be available, of course, online. We have 3 magazines as usual, so the FMAG 556, no different than the others. They work for the VFC, WE, and the goal is to make them work also for TM and other guns in the future. We have this pneumatic hose with trigger guard already inserted, and this one is frog earth color, could be also black. We have our US type Foster quick connector for the pneumatic hose. The sleeve for the hose, in this video I'm using the green one, but it's possible to have it black. 3 pieces of heat shrinking tubes in different sizes and few tiny screws. Basically in this bag I have one 2.5 times 8 millimeter screw, one 2.5 times 10 millimeter screw, and 3 worm screws M3 times 5. Obviously there are some items you need to assemble this conversion. The first thing you need is you, so be sure that you are present. Then you need a gun to convert. So I'll be working on this beautiful HK416 A5 GBBR from VFC, tan color, very nice. And there is one more thing I did not mention yet. So you need a proper version of the gun in order for the conversion to fit. So basically only the very old VFCs, they have bolt catch mechanism with these 3 parts you can see right now on the screen. This is the firing pin retainer. So if you have them, the conversion will not be possible to mount. You need the new one. can see it now on the screen. And if you, in your gun there are the old components, you can buy the new ones from some airsoft store in Taiwan, Hong Kong, wherever, and they will fit, so you can replace them and then there will be no issue with mounting the conversion. This gun has the ambidextrous bolt catch, and it's a very big complication to the whole system. Actually, I made a video on how to make it work. I highly advise to do the items explained in this video, because otherwise this conversion will, basically it will work, but sooner or later the bolt catch might have some issues, just like with the original magazines. Okay, having said that, let's start. This video probably will be quite long, so let's not prolong it artificially. There will be 5 stages of the assembly. First we will work on the conversion to prepare it to be assembled. Then the second thing, we will work on the lower receiver and conversion assembly to the lower receiver. Then we will make some changes in the upper. These will be minor as the third part. The fourth part will be routing of the hose, which basically is practically the same as in WE conversion. And the last phase will be testing the gun, if it works, shoots, and if everything is fine. As I already explained, the first stage will be to prepare the conversion. Similarly to what we did in WE, we will need to take out the valve from the original magazine, put it into the conversion, and we also need to remove this seal here from the top and also put it into the conversion. So this is very important because you must make sure that the seal you are using is this type from the latest generation of VFC magazines. That's how such a seal looks in detail. You can recognize it because it has this elevated portion here, and also it says VMAG V2 here, so this seal is the right one. The old one looked the same as the HK417 seal, so like this, no writing here and this portion is not elevated. This one will not work. You must have the magazine with this one as the donor kebab. I put the conversion aside, and first thing I need to do is to take the parts out of this magazine, but before I do it I make sure that there is no gas inside. So basically I will either shoot this out or I will push the valve somewhere outdoors to release the gas, but if I do it, it will be a huge amount of gas potentially leaving the magazine, so it will freeze, and some of the gas might freeze or like burn my hand from the cold. So you don't want to do it by your finger, you want to use some screwdriver or something of that sort. My magazine is empty, so if I press this valve here, nothing happens, that's okay. And now I will remove these 2 screws from the top. And the magazine spring puts tension on this part, so when you unscrew these screws, make sure that you're holding this plastic top part of the magazine down, because it might basically fly away. Okay, screws are gone, taking out, okay. As I said, the spring puts tension here, these parts we don't need. We have the seal here, you see this is the proper type, and the valve is here on the back, but in order to unscrew it we must remove this top part from the magazine. For this we need to remove the bottom plate. We remove these screws here on the bottom. So the screws are here. Now I can remove the bottom plate. And if I look deep inside, I will see there is a screw in this chamber that I need to also remove. So I take a long screwdriver, I put it in there. And when the screw comes out, you see this part already moves out of the magazine shell. So we are left with this part with the valve and the seal, and here we just undo the valve. You can do it with a flat screwdriver if you try nicely or gently, or you can just use a key for valves and basically remove it. So here is the valve. And when you remove the valve, make sure that there are 3 seals on the valve. One should be here, one should be here and it's missing, and one should be here on this rear portion. So this one is left in that silver part. I need to take it out and put it back here. Okay, so I have my valve properly assembled now. 3 seals are in their places, and when you remove it you can clean it up. This gun is brand new, but who knows what's happened to your magazine, or sometimes even the new guns have some kind of dirt, whatever. You need to make sure these O-rings are basically clear. When we have these two parts taken out, the seal and the valve, we can proceed with the assembly to the conversion. First step is to remove the rear part here. We unscrew these two screws. We take the part away, we put it to the side, and now we can place the valve into this hole here on the rear. So basically it just goes in. What's important is that this front seal will be very tight inside. So when you are inserting this, you can put some lube on the seal, like a Teflon spray or something, to ease the insertion in case you get some troubles. And be very careful, so do not push it by force, but gently trying to, wiggle this in a little like this. And right now I already feel constant resistance, which means this is the final position. So I will use the wrench to find where the threads match by rotating this counterclockwise. You see it jumped a little more. And now I can start screwing in the valve. And when you are screwing the valve in, make sure that it's really screwed all the way in to compress the seals properly. So in case you get some leakage through the valve, make sure that you really screwed this in properly. Right now we can place this rear portion back here, so we just put the screws, and you don't want these screws to become loose because the conversions will start to move inside the gun, so you really screw them tight. Okay, and we can check here through this hole if the valve works. When we push it, it should basically spring back. Now the second thing is the seal. So on the top here we have two screws, we need to remove them. And without the screws I can take the top cover off. I call this part the conversion cap. Now I will take the seal and I need to put this rib around the seal into the groove here, which might be a little tough at first, so make sure you really push it in. The best is to start on the rear, then proceed with the sides, and then at the end make also sure that the front goes in, and I do it by helping with a screwdriver like so, and I'm able to squeeze the seal nicely. So the seal fits very tightly, but this means that it will be resistant against air leakage. And then we put the cap back, so this time starting from the front, and we need to push it over the seal. And when you are doing this, make sure that both these corners of the seal are not caught inside under this conversion cap, but they are actually visible on the top side. And now two screws. So the screws go back, and again make sure they are tight. And after we do it, the conversion is ready to use inside of the gun. In the next step we will assemble the prepared conversion into the lower receiver. And in the HK416A5, this is a little tricky, I will explain in a moment. I recorded an alternative procedure for AR15 or HK416Ds, also for some SR15 E3 from VFC where the ambidextrous bolt catch feature is present. The case would be the same as the HK416A5. I will mount the conversion to this one, as I said, but I will paste also a short part of a video where I assemble an AR15 from VFC, which is the second option. And first let's understand what is the reason for the difference. So the conversion will be mounted here, and there are two attachment points. One here in the rear where we have that slot in the conversion rear, and one point is here, and it will be screwed into this steel feature from the front. And if I remove the conversion, you see these aluminum ribs here are very tiny, and it's not possible to drill straight into them from the top to make a point for attachment of the screw. We need to partially drill through this rib and through the firing pin retainer, this steel part underneath. And then when we create a hole that screw can go through, we can start drilling a hole with thread into the lower receiver below. In these other guns, this rib is much thicker, and there is no problem in drilling the hole directly in this rib and screwing it directly. So you see we have that slot here. So in regular AR-15s, the screw will go a little forwards to dive into this rib, which will be thicker, and in HK416A5 and those SR15s I mentioned, the screw will be positioned more to the rear. So now I will start to disassemble the parts and show you how to create those attachment holes. In order to remove the bolt catch, we need to push out this pin. So I taken out the pin, the bolt catch arm, and the return spring that was in here in this groove on the bottom. So I put them aside. Right now I can remove the screw which is here. So I removed this fire pin retainer, and I want to remove this part with the spring. So we put the components aside, and this part we will be working on in a minute. And here in the lower receiver I remove the firing pin, and it has the return spring on the bottom, so not to lose it again, and I put it aside. In order to modify this part, you first of all need to clean this from the grease. It will probably be dirty. And now let's try to understand what we will be doing. So the conversion will come this way and be attached here. So what we need to do first is to file off the front of this surface, because you can see that it's at a little angle. So when the conversion will be screwed directly to it, it will pull it upwards, and we want it to be parallel to the receiver wall, or the direction in which the bolt carrier group is traveling. So first of all, we need to polish it from the front, or file it, so that the front surface of that part will be perpendicular to the bottom surface, or the best to this bottom surface where this sits in the receiver. Yeah. So in my case, I don't know how much visible this is on the video, but there is always some draft angle here, and you need to make sure it's flat. If you will overdo it, and if this will be like a negative angle, so that the conversion would actually go like this, it's not a problem, because the conversion will sit in the receiver in the magwell, and the magwell will not allow it to go down. So there will be now nothing bad happening if you overdo it, obviously to some degree. Yeah, don't overdo it too much, basically. So I will do it now. So you can see the silver surface is where I polished it. I used a Dremel tool actually, and right now this is the proper shape. So if I put this against the conversion does not move up anymore, it sits straight. Yeah, so that's what we want. So now if we rotate the conversion, there is a screw hole here. Actually this shape should be exactly the same as this surface here. Yeah, it should fit. And the screw, this is the M2.5x8 screw, which is in the set. It should go through this hole and attach the conversion to this part. So for this purpose we need to drill a hole here and then thread it, and this hole has to be exactly in the middle of this rectangle. If we imagine that this is a full rectangle, this corner is not cut off, then we want it to be in the very middle. So to know where to drill, I will make a line with a sharp knife here, like a diagonal. Okay. And right now I will measure the length of the diagonal and mark the middle point, or you can make the second line, but as this corner is missing, it's a little more tricky to imagine where it should be. And when we have the center marked, we can put the conversion against it and confirm like visually that this point that we marked is really in the middle of this hole. This hole is bigger than 2.5 millimeters, so if you miss a little, this should fit anyway, or in the worst case, if you miss pretty badly, you can just try to enlarge this in proper direction so that the screw goes through. So I'm gonna drill a hole for the thread right now, so I will do it off screen. It's hard to do it under the camera. I will show you the result. So I have the hole here and I do the drilling in 2 steps. So first I use 1.6 millimeter drill or make a smaller hole, and then I use a 2.05 millimeter drill with which I enlarge the hole because that's the diameter needed for my tool for creating the thread. So this is the first stage. The hole is here, it goes through, it's in the middle, and now I will enlarge it to 2.05 millimeters. So I have the hole enlarged. This is 2.05 millimeters, the second step. And now I need to add the thread. I will be using this manual threading tool, kind of simple, and I will use these bits for it. What's important here, I will use only this with 1 cut and 2 cuts. Usually you get 3 of those in one package, and there is one without any cut, and this is the last one to be used. So first you normally would use this one, then this one, and then the one with no cuts, because the one with no cuts is the equivalent of a screw. In my case, I don't want that perfect thread because this is a GBBR and the screws will become loose. You need to glue them or whatever, and if you will use only these 2 threading tools, then it will be okay because the screw will have some resistance against rotation in the part. What's important here is also that this is a really strong steel part. It's hardened probably, and you need to be very careful in order not to break the threading tool inside. The M2.5 is not a big thread, you need to be very careful. So to ease the process, we take the first bit with 1 cut only and we dip it in regular edible oil. Yeah, so this is just regular oil. I don't use any kind of lube or any gun oil, whatever, because they are not pure fat and they are not performing so well. So what this will do, it will prevent the bit from sticking into the part. It will ease the process very, very significantly. And the way how I do it is I align the part, yeah, so that the threading tool is perpendicular, and I will start rotating this, but only a bit. So when it starts to catch, I will rotate 1/2, then another 1/2, and I will go 1/2 back. Then I will again go to the position I was already in and I add additional 1/2 and I go 1/2 back. Then again, full rotation, 1/2 rotation back. This way I'm making sure that this won't jam and I will not break that threading tool. And whenever you feel real big resistance from the threading, then you need to remove the tool completely, clean it, put this into the oil again and try again, yeah, from the start. It will be easier at the beginning and later it will start working on the part again, so the resistance will come back but not so strong. And you want to make the complete hole threaded, so not to occupy too much time, I'll do it off screen. So this one is done. I will remove the debris that came out on the rear side and switch the bit to the one with 2 cuts and repeat the whole operation. You will notice that it's really easy when you dip it in regular edible oil. If you tried without, then probably you will see that it's really different process. Okay, and right now I'm inserting this back here and I will counterclockwise rotate it for a moment to catch the thread that I started. I think I have it, and I repeat the whole process. So 1 full rotation, 1/2 rotation back, 1 full rotation, 1/2 rotation back, and it's ready. After each operation, so here again, make sure to clean this up, and when looking from the rear, here is the gap in which the bolt catch will work. Yeah, so you don't want it to be caught against some kind of sticky debris or whatever. So make sure that this rear side where this thread exits is flush. Yeah, you might need to file it a little or clean it with a knife, whatever you want, but make sure that it's not disturbing the work of the bolt catch. And now the last test, so let's try to screw the screw in. You will probably need to use some kind of wrench because of that resistance that we wanted to create. So you see it works, yeah, I'm able to screw it in, everything's fine. So the same modification is applicable also in the AR10 and HK416D guns, exactly the same. But in the case of HK416A5 and those SR15s I explained earlier, we also need to modify this wall here a bit, and I'm gonna explain now how. And for adding the attachment point on this side, we will also need to drill in the lower receiver. So I will remove the complete trigger mechanism by pushing the pins, this one and these two out, and pulling out all the components. So let's do it. So I remove the full auto sear with its dedicated pin and return spring from here, and I will remove this pin here. The pin is out. I can pull the hammer out together with spring and these two bearings or washers, and I do the exact same thing with the trigger pin, which is here. So I push it out. So we have the trigger pin, this connector and this connector spring, and obviously we put them aside. Now that the receiver is emptied, you can notice here there is this steel insert for the firing pin. You don't need to remove it. Some guns have it, some guns don't. It can stay. What you want to do now is to clean up all the grease that is left, because when we will be generating some loose particles, they will stick to the grease, so it will be easier to clean this up when it's dried, it's cleaned. And in order to reduce the cleanup further, I stuff the lower receiver here with the tissues, and on the rear I do not remove the buffer or spring, I just tape it out so that no debris can go in there. And if we have the lower receiver prepared this way, we can start to work here in this area. So right now when we look at the conversion, you can see that through this slot here you can see part of the this part and part of the body, actually this rib here. And we want the attachment screw, which was also included, the M2.5 x 12, to go in between them and attach to the body. So more or less like this, yeah, hold the conversion this way. And we will not be able to put such a thread into neither of those parts in the HK416 A5. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this kind of bit. This is some kind of diamond pin for material polishing for my Dremel tool, and I'm gonna use them on both parts, the firing pin retainer and the body here, to create a round hole big enough so that the screw could go down to the body. If you will look under the firing pin retainer, then here there is a lot of aluminium and easily we can screw in here. Yeah? We just need to make enough space for the screw to reach the attachment point. So how to find the proper position where the screw should be? Obviously we can attach our conversion now here. So we put this screw from the front, and there is some space so that we can reach it with the key here. So we screw it in. And before I tighten the screw completely, when the conversion still can move a little, I take the magazine and I insert this, because it will set the proper position of the conversion. So when I have it now, I'm gonna push here with my finger down, because the second attachment point is here, and tighten this screw. So when my conversion is partially mounted like this, I can reach into this hole and mark with some sharp tool where the middle of the slot is, and then focus on this area on the parts underneath. So I have my marking there. Probably it's not that visible, but I will disassemble it now to show you where it is. So with the conversion removed, you can see where the scratch is. So this is where I will be filing the parts to create space for the screw, and I want to make half of it on the side of the firing pin retainer and half of it on the side of the lower receiver. I will take the firing pin retainer out and I will modify it off screen again and show you the result. Here you can see the modified part. So there is this cutout, and you see that in the middle there starts to appear an opening. This is because this is not flat on the rear, and you start to go through on the other side of that steel part. So when the hole starts to appear, I usually stop. It's enough. Yeah. So here I have the cutout, and I have its counterpart in here. Yeah. So you can see how this is modified. It was symmetrical previously, now it's not. When I put the part inside, you can see the hole forms here. So now we need to add a thread here, and the thread should be in the receiver itself, not in between these two parts. But if we add the thread directly to the lower receiver, then it will probably be mismatched, because the screw will start catching against the steel part and the receiver, and it might miss the threads you prepared in the lower receiver. So I prefer to do it all at once. So for this reason I attach the trigger block with this screw. It grants the final position, and now I'm gonna use drill in this hole to make a threading hole. So I will do it a little different than the one here. I will start with the 2mm drill because it will be better to position it against the cutout we did, yeah. And then when I have the initial start of the hole, I will switch back to 1.6mm drill. It will basically be positioned in the middle of the hole. Otherwise I could drill with the 1.6 drill somewhere not in the center of the hole but on the side, yeah. And this way I have a better chance it will be straight. And basically I'm drilling straight down, and you might think that there is not enough material on the front, but again there is the draft angle, and this is kind of more massive here at the bottom, and you will drill all the way till the magazine release here, yeah. So basically we put the drill in here, and then perpendicularly we go all the way down. The screw that you will use has 12mm length, plus the conversion on the top, which has 3mm height, so you want like 9mm of thread, yeah. So I'll do the hole, I'll thread it. First let me do the hole, and then I'll show you how I thread it again. So now I drilled it all the way down. Probably you don't see it in the video, yeah, but you have to believe me. So now I'm gonna repeat the exercise with the threading tool, and this will be much easier when you are using it against aluminum. It's used for the receiver, but anyway I recommend you to put this into the oil first, because sometimes it can happen your tool will jam, maybe it's not that sharp, maybe something's wrong with it, and you don't want to have to replace the complete receiver because you broke it. So the exact same way, bit of oil, and when the parts are assembled, then we put it here and we start threading. I use the same method, then I will redo it with the tool cut threading tool, and it will be ready. So again, doing this off screen. So I already did it, and you can see I screwed in the screw for the test. It goes nicely in, there is no problem. So that's what you want to achieve. So right now what we need to do obviously is a cleanup. You can see I don't have lots of debris because on every stage when drilling, polishing, whatever, I'm making some small cleanups. So now I will clean everything properly, and I will reassemble the trigger mechanism, and I won't record the trigger mechanism reassembly for the video because you can find it on the web. Probably you know anyway how to do it, so not to increase the length of this particular video because it will be very long anyway. So right now I'm assembling the trigger back after I do the cleanup, and in the meantime you will see how this conversion assembles to a simpler receiver of regular AR15 or HK416D. And I'm using a prototype conversion there, so the process will be very similar, you will see, but the conversion is silver basically. There is very small difference between them. You will see that we will be attaching here to this rib, and we want to put an M2.5 thread in here. This whole receiver has a draft, so the lower you go in the material, the wider it becomes, and there is a lot of good space where you can attach to. Yeah, so in practice there will be no issue. You just have to be careful when you do it. And where exactly to find out, the best is to put here the conversion, hold it with your finger like this, and insert the magazine. Yeah, because right now the conversion will be positioned together with the magazine, and this hole here will land in the proper place. Yeah, so I will mark it, making a scratch there through this hole where the middle is, and I have here this cross, so I will drill here, and I will use smaller drills first. First I will go with 1 millimeter diameter, then 1.5, then 2 millimeters, and after this I will thread it. Yeah, so I will show you after each stage. So right now 1 millimeter diameter hole, and the depth should be at least 10 millimeters. Yeah, so 1 millimeter diameter. Right now it's 1.6, and right now it's 2 millimeters. So now I will use a threading tool, 2.5 millimeters. I will make a thread here. So I have my tool ready, one cut. I put it into oil, then I put it into this hole here. I make one rotation, half back, one rotation forwards, half rotation back, one rotation forwards, half rotation back, and so on. If it starts to go very tight, I need to pull the tool completely out, unscrew it, clean it out of the old debris, and screw it back in and proceed with the same process. So, and here my 2-cut tool is completely in, so I can now remove it and the thread is ready. Now to test this, you can take this M2.5 screw that was in the conversion attached. You can put it here and just try to screw it, and it will go tight, yeah, because we did not make a complete thread as I said earlier, so you need a hex key to help yourself. You can see the screw went almost all the way in. It's enough to hold the conversion, so now I can remove it, and the scary part, I believe, is finished. So my trigger mechanism is back, it's fully functional. Make sure that yours works if everything's okay. I put in also the front of the trigger mechanism, let's say, so the firing pin is there too. Yeah, so I checked everything's functional, I looped it already. There will be no more drilling done on the lower receiver, so it's fine, you can just put it, test that the functions are okay. What we will do now, we will test the conversion if it fits properly. So now I guess you already understand how it's being attached. We put it here, and the 8 millimeter long screw goes there, the 12 millimeter screw goes here. Yeah, so I will do it off screen again and show the result. And right now I have the 2 screws in place, no problem. The conversion is attached a little loose, yeah, it still moves. So now I insert the magazine, and now I can tighten the conversion. Here on the rear where the conversion ends, it should not go over this wall on the steel part where the bolt catch will be moving. Yeah, so in your case, if this goes over this wall, maybe it can be caused by not fully proper assembly or just by the tolerances on some older guns. You need to file the conversion a bit here. Yeah, you just don't want this rear portion here obstruct the work or the space for the bolt catch. Yeah, so now the magazine is in, so we can screw this till the end. One, second one, and if everything is done properly, the top surface here should be parallel to this edge, which in my case it is. Later we will check if that's for sure fitting the top receiver and the bolt carrier group, and we can adjust it, but for now we can leave it this way. So right now we will switch to the upper receiver, and I will show you what needs to be modified and why. So here is the upper receiver. First let's remove the slide. I guess you know how to do it. Yeah, so bolt carrier group goes out, charging handle goes out, and right now we will mount the upper receiver on the front pin. And when you try to close it, obviously remember to remove this pin. You will notice that it cannot happen, and it cannot happen because right now there is a screw sticking out in here. There is no space for it in the upper receiver, and there is a second screw on this side which we added also with this conversion attachment, which blocks closing of the upper receiver. So basically what we must do right now is to make space for them. So I will take a pencil, I will mark where this ends. Yeah, so the screw ends here. Yeah, I have a line. I'll do the same on this side. So it starts here and it ends more or less here. Okay, so I have my markings. Now I will remove the top receiver. So now when you look, you have this cutout, and this is the cutout for the part where the bolt catch mechanism is. And if you look on your lines here, this one is in the middle of that cutout, so this causes no collision, and this one on the front is somewhere within this thick wall here, so it causes the collision. Yeah, so what we will do is we will prolong this cutout up to here. Yeah, and important is not to make it all the way through like on this side. We want to keep this inside of it, because this is the guide for the bolt carrier group, and we don't need to go that deep. We only need few millimeters so that the screw can hide here. Yeah, so this will be simple, and we will do exactly the same on the other side. So here you also see the same cutout. You see the situation is similar. The body is a little thicker here, but you only need to remove it to this thickness. You don't need to make it so deep as on this side. Basically the best would be if you try it in your gun how it fits. You will see how it works. And again, here you don't want to go all the way through to this guide of the bolt carrier group. You only want to remove few millimeters. So it will be much simpler to show how it looks when it's done. So my line here, yeah, again I'm doing the cutout in here. So I'm using a Dremel tool and I will show you the result. What's important is that the gun is full of lube, and obviously there is the hop-up chamber, barrel and those parts. So you can either remove everything and work only on the upper receiver. Remember about the forward assist, because the debris can gather also there. Or you can just take some tissues and seal it really tightly so that the debris will not go into any important area. Both things work. It's up to you which one you prefer. Yeah. Anyway, afterwards you need to clean this up, and when it's clean to relube it. So it's up to you which one you prefer. I'll show you how it looks after I finish. So here you can see how it looks like. Obviously the silver portion is the one that was milled out. With a Dremel tool it's not going, it's not going all the way through. Yeah, it's just deep enough to fit the attachments of the conversion, and on the other side it's the same till the places marked with the pencil previously. So now when I put the top and bottom receivers together, I can close them. Yeah, so the pin goes through and it's fine. So what I can do now, I can relube the charging handle and the bolt carrier group and basically put them in. This is all of the tricky and risky modifications. Now we will concentrate on the hose. So for this we don't need the upper receiver, so let's not use it. And first part is the removal of the trigger guard. So it's the same as all AR15 type guns. So button on the front, and then here we have a pin, so we need to push it out. And when the pin is removed, we just take out the trigger guard, and both these parts will not be used anymore. When the trigger guard is gone, we will remove the pistol grip to put the hose into the gun. Yeah, so you might have a different type, maybe you replaced it or you have just a different gun with different pistol grip, but generally the way to do it is the same. So in my case I need to take off this cap. Maybe you have a different cap or no cap. And now here deep inside you can see this big screw, so I just need to unscrew it. Okay, so I can remove the pistol grip now, and when I take it out there will be this tiny spring falling from the hole here, and there is also a pin. So you don't want to lose it, you can pull it out with some kind of magnet, for example. So this is the screw from the pistol grip, so let's put it aside for the moment. So now I will put the hose into the conversion with the trigger guard on, and this is pre-assembled in semi-final position. I will explain in a moment. So you just need to take it, rotate the lower receiver, insert the tube into the conversion here, yeah, and push it. So there will be some resistance, you can support it. So it sits, and now I'm gonna take the trigger guard, I'm gonna bend it out of the lower receiver, and I'm gonna slide it forwards a little so that it starts fitting in between these holes. Okay, so when it's like this, I can leave it, and let's modify the pistol grip now. We need to drill a hole in here from the front so that the hose would go into the pistol grip and down. The hose has the outer diameter of 6 millimeters, but I also always do a bigger hole here, as big as possible, going straight in. And in these HK type of grips, you can see on the bottom there is like a thick wall, so I want to also drill it from the top, because the screw head, if you look on your grip, is occupying most of the area where the hole will be when I drill it from the front. And this is different from grip to grip, yeah? So in this case I'm gonna use a little trick to increase the space there. Also another trick to increase the space, in case in your grip, maybe you have some special one, there is very small space to push the hose next to the screw head here. You can exchange this screw for a sphere type head screw, yeah, because this is the cylindrical head, so it's a bigger one. So I'm gonna modify the pistol grip and I'm gonna show you the result. So I have the pistol grip, you see the hole on the front, and there is a hole also inside where this exits, but it's also like I explained. So it goes like this, but from this side parallel to this wall I drilled it also like this. So now that we have it prepared, we will set the correct position of the conversion, and you want to make sure that the seal here is lubed with some silicone oil. So my seal is lubed, you can see it's shiny, and I put the upper receiver on. So now when the upper receiver is on, I will try to charge the gun, and here there will be one specific thing, because in one of my videos I have a modification for the bolt catch and the bolt carrier group in order to avoid some wear and different issues, and it's already implemented here. So in my case there is a hard stop here, and it will force the nozzle out of the chamber in here, yeah. Normally the gas is resetted here, but in a stock gun this hard stop is somewhere here, yeah, so it could behave a little different in your gun. I think this modification is necessary for all the VFC guns. The conversion will work regardless of it. On HK416A5 a little worse, but I highly advise to do it anyway. When I'm pulling out the nozzle, I need to check how hard it goes. If it really catches against the seal in the on the conversion and it's really hard to disconnect the nozzle from it, I might need to lower the conversion. In my case, actually, it's not that bad. There is one more thing we can do to improve it. I'll show you. So when we look on the nozzle here, it's molded from plastic. There is a few parts of the mold, like 4 or something, joining in this area, yeah, so you can see like 4 separate surfaces, 2 on the sides, 1 on the front, 1 on the rear. And when it moves back, when the bolt carrier group moves back, the nozzle stays, and this edge here can catch on the edge of the seal, preventing the nozzle from disconnecting. Yeah. So first thing I do, I will take a very sharp knife and I will add really like a minimal chamfer on that edge. Yeah. So very tiny, so that basically it's flush. If I move the finger through this surface, I don't want to feel like a sharp edge here. Yeah. So I added the chamfer, and now I will take care of these different surfaces we have here, and I will use a piece of sandpaper. I need to put it into the water. This is the kind that you put it into the water and then you can polish something with it. So that's what I'm about to do. So my piece of sandpaper is wet, so I'm gonna put it against the surface on the nozzle and very gently polish it. Yeah. So the thing I want to achieve is I want to remove that separation of different surfaces from the mold of, you know, how this part was molded and so on. Yeah. So pretty quickly, not too intensive. Yeah. I just want to make sure that these separation lines disappear. This is a kind of fix that is good for not like only converted HPA guns. It's actually very beneficial in terms of reduced wear to all VFC guns. So when I do it, you see it just lasted a few seconds or maybe a little longer, like a minute. Now I can clean this up, yeah, so that no dirt remains and I have nice even surface here with these two chamfers added. And I want to obviously retest how the nozzle disconnects. And right now it's very easy. There is like no resistance almost felt in that hard stop area. In case you would run into some troubles here, so this bolt carrier group would be caught pretty badly on the seal inside, you want to lower the conversion. So what you need to do is to loosen those two screws that hold the conversion, you remember, and then take the hose like this and push the trigger guard tiny bit to the front. When you push it tiny bit to the front and you put it back, the conversion will be pulled by the hose and it will, let's say, bow down a little. So you tighten it, of course, with the mag inserted, and it will be stopped in this tilted position. So the interference between the seal and the bolt carrier group would be smaller. In general, the conversion is designed in a way that it should fit always, but there are lots of generation of these guns, older, you know, new ones. It depends on how you assemble it and so on, so it's not possible to make, let's say, one size fit all. But if you have that issue that this really is hard to disconnect, then you can do that trick and it will help. This is the reason why I say that the trigger guard is in a semi-final position, because it can require some adjustment like this. So now when I checked it and I feel that it works nicely here, I can go on and mount the pistol grip. That's really simple. The way how I do it is that I put the hose in first, the hose goes in, and then I bend it away. I put the screw next to it. Hopefully you can see the screw is already here. Remember to reinsert selector pin and the spring that was here. You need to put the pistol grip back, try to make the screw catch against the thread, and then rotation by rotation with the screw pull the pistol grip and the trigger guard into its final position. So I have it in place, everything fits. You can see trigger guard actually sits pretty nicely already, but we are gonna attach it permanently, let's say, to the gun right now. So we are using these three tiny headless screws, these worm screws. This is M3x5, and we are gonna screw it through these holes and the one on the other side directly into the trigger guard. We want to have it flush with the body, because if you screw it too far inside, then it will start to pushing on the hose and you can crush it. Yeah, so not too far. And this is a GBBR, so I suggest you use some kind of quick drying glue like Loctite, super glue, whatever you call it, and apply it on the screw, then screw it in, because otherwise it will fall out. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you one. So I have some glue on my screw. I'm gonna push the trigger guard into final position, carefully insert the screw in this hole and basically apply some force and screw it. Yeah, so it goes in nicely, and as I see it's flush, then I finish. Yeah, and I'm gonna repeat it here and underneath in the same, like a symmetrical hole. So I'll be back with a result. And my trigger guard is attached, it does not move anymore. We have those two screws and the last one on this side here. Yeah, now we're gonna do some function test. So if you're afraid you could do something wrong, you can wait with these screws on the trigger guard until you perform this test, because it will be easier to disassemble everything if that's not screwed in. Yeah, but obviously it can be removed too. So I'm gonna blow through the hose, and when the gun is charged, so in VFC you can put it on safe when it's charged. Yeah, so the valve in the conversion should be in the closed position. I should not be able to blow through it. The second stage, I'm gonna put the gun on semi and pull the trigger so the valve will open and I should be able to blow through the tube hole. Hopefully you are able to hear this. And then I'll charge the gun again. So the valve should reset and now I should not be able to blow through the tube. Again, hard to here because I'm not able to blow through it, but it works, you have to believe me. Yeah, so everything's fine. I intentionally did not mount the bolt catch yet because on the HK416A5 bolt catch is pretty troublesome. Here, before I assemble it to the body, I'm gonna modify the other side of the body according to that manual that is present in one of my videos. I link it in the description. This is the same video which talks about the modification to the hard stop for the nozzle. Yeah, so I'm gonna do it now, and when this will be finished I can reassemble the bolt catch too, and I will show you the last function checks so that we can proceed on. So I did the modification, the bolt catch is in place, it should work right now perfectly. And if you have a regular one, not this HK416 A5 type that goes on other side, like here, you don't need to do anything, you can just drop the bolt catch in. Basically the rule is to make sure that the bolt catch really fits without any movement impaired by some friction or something like this. Yeah, you want it to be completely loose, but remember to put the return spring underneath. There was a pin and spring which we removed, so everything goes back. I can do the next check, so I'm gonna put in the magazine, make sure it's seated. In some older guns I've seen that the geometry of the mag catch was a little different, and the mag was either not pushing the mag catch out of the body when inserted or was not seated fully. Yeah, so if you happen to have this kind of gun, then you just need to file the mag catch arm properly a little from the bottom to add chamfer to ease the opening of the mag catch with the magazine, or the top of it, so that basically it catches the magazine a little lower. Yeah, in this case and in the case of all new VFCs, the magazine should fit perfectly. Yeah, so it's okay. And now I want to try, the magazine is empty, so now I want to try to charge it, and basically what should happen is that, as you see, the bolt catch goes up and blocks the bolt carrier group in this rear position. And when it blocks it, what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's really in the very top position. So you can push it with your hand and you should not be able to move it anymore upwards. Yeah, in case you have the one-sided bolt catch, then you need to press it from this side. Yeah, make sure that it's the really final position. So when it catches, that's perfect. What you want to do now is to release it, and now carefully pull it again and pay attention to what's going on here. When I'm pulling the bolt carrier group backwards, I want to make sure that there is a clicking noise when the bolt catch moves, and it will go up regardless of how slow I pull back the bolt carrier group. Yeah, so I pull it and there was the clicking noise, and I was really pulling it slowly and it went up. This is important because it means that there is no real impairment of this move. So it's not like the bolt catch barely moves and sometimes it will catch, sometimes it won't. It will catch every time because it's completely loose, and the magazine through those levers on the conversion can move this arm pretty easily. Yeah. So again, yeah, so you see how it jumped. That's exactly what we want. And when you release it, the bolt carrier group will pull the bolt catch a little inside. That's standard, yeah, so that's fine. And remember, when you are trying to charge the gun, always have the bolt catch in if the magazine is inserted, because there is the follower in the magazine and it acts with those arms on the conversion and the bolt catch. So it means that those arms are limiting its position. So right now it's on the top position and it moves those arms in a position that prevents the slide, the bolt carrier group and the nozzle from moving forwards, right? And if I press the bolt release, then it can travel, but through the bolt catch and those arms I pushed the follower down. Yeah, so now when I'm gonna release the bolt carrier group, it will not hit against the follower in the magazine. So this is safe. If I had no bolt catch inserted in the gun, basically I would hit with the nozzle on the follower and I probably would break it out of the feeding lips, or I would break the feeding lips or maybe the nozzle. So remember, always when you are inserting the empty magazine into the gun, make sure the bolt catch is there, because you can damage something when you charge it. So now is the time for last stage of the assembly, so we will finish the hose. And basically the hose comes in a much longer part than you probably needed. This is just in case you did something wrong, you need to cut part of it. Yeah, so that's like a safety measure. And you receive a 20 centimeter piece of protection sleeve. I don't know how long you want to keep this on the gun, so I'm gonna shorten it, yeah, but you can use up the complete length. So I have a shorter piece here. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put this over the hose, and I'm gonna put this small piece of the heat shrinking tube over it. And again, it has like 5 centimeters of length. Probably you don't need it so long, yeah, so it's up to you, you can shorten it. So the tube is here, and I'm gonna insert the second size, yeah, and again, it's 5 centimeters, probably you don't need that much. It will cover a piece of the quick connector, so you can shorten it based on your preference. So the middle size is on. And now what I'm gonna do, I need to cut the hose to final length. So it depends how you like it. Obviously, I like it kind of shorter, let's say. So I'm checking with the sleeve how much I want to have it sticking outside of the gun. So in my case, it will be something like this. And I'm gonna cut it like 1 centimeter longer. So this is what we will be working with, and we need to undo the nut here on this side of the quick connector, and we put it over the hose. Then we squeeze the hose into the tube, okay, till the very end, and we move the nut back, and we need to screw it properly until there is big resistance here. So I screwed it in, it sits nicely. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pull the sleeve back so that it's aligned here, and this will be the position I want to have it in. So I'm gonna put a dot of glue here, this Loctite or super glue type, because from my experience I know that this tends to be like torn out from under the heat shrinking tube. So I'm gonna put one dot here on both sides, let's say, and then move the sleeve over it, then the tube over it, and I want to shrink the tube in this position. So this end is shrunk, and I'm gonna take the largest size of the heat shrinking tube and I'm gonna put it all over this main connector. so like this, and make sure that it reaches this area more or less where the sleeve ends, yeah, so something like this. Again, shrink it. So it's shrunk. You can see that it reaches further than the sleeve, yeah, it catches also the sleeve partially here, and here it's over this quick connection area, so I will just cut this off with a knife. Okay, so this end is cleaned up, yeah, you can see the whole connection area is exposed. There should be no issue with the hose connection for the regulator. So now we are gonna move this part out of the pistol grip, and I'm gonna set the sleeve so that in the middle of it the hose ends. So it's shrunk now, and the thing is I can move it, yeah, this is important. So right now what I'm gonna do, because I want this to be hidden, I'm gonna push it in to find where the final position is. Then I'm gonna move it back, apply a dot of glue inside, and then slide it over this glue so that it's caught in this final position inside, and it's finished nicely. And this is it. So the sleeve is nicely stretched, the hose is attached, it's covered. You can figure out different ways how to make a cutout here, or maybe you have different grips, so in general this area could be a little different, but the methodology is exactly the same. So now the gun is properly assembled, so we can test the tightness and how it shoots. So when we have the assembled gun, remember to reload it properly. We will test the function. Make sure that the gun is charged. Put it on safe. Yeah, mine is on safe. And let's connect the pressure. You should listen if there is no leakage, no hissing anywhere, you can feel anything. If everything's fine, then first let's do a few semi shots. Everything's okay, so let's do full auto. It's okay, so some more semi shots. Okay, so let's say gun running dry is okay. Now you take your empty magazine, and probably you want to repeat it for all of them, but you take your empty magazine, you put it in the gun, you make sure it's seated, you make sure it's empty obviously, and let's repeat it. So basically right now the bolt should lock back on each shot. If I put it on full auto, it will be no difference. And you can hold the bolt catch with your hand, start shooting on full auto, and when you release it, the bolt should also be caught in the rear position. Okay, let's remove the magazine. We can test if the bolt catch returns. No problem. So yeah, the gun is functional. So let's put it on chrono, let's see how it shoots. Now let's see how the gun shoots. I'm using 0.28 gram BBs. This is fully stock gun, NPAS set to like 90% of the range, and this is the Redline Mini SFR regulator on 120 psi. This video showed you how to assemble the conversion to any HK416 or AR15 GBBRs from VFC. I hope everything is clear. If you have questions, obviously ask me. The best is to ask me through Facebook, although I try to answer also the comments on the YouTube. I hope you liked it. Stay tuned for next videos. We have a lot coming right now. A lot of work was done lately in one huge package, so there will be often releases. Thank you so much for your attention. Please like the video, subscribe, as I said, comment, hit the notification bell. Again, thank you so much, and may the power of GBBR be with you.